2014 legislative package, a proposal to implement a high-stakes bingo pilot program, introduced by Ms. Willie Wave, GREDC.
Thank you. Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Moved by Ms. Willie, seconded by Ms. Ford. Go ahead, Ms. Willie.
When we were back working on the budget, I tried to stress that we really need to upgrade our financial position and not be where there's so many things, areas that were deficient in significant ways. And I focused on looking at just one, our wastewater, and then two, in terms of roads, three, emergency services, four, you could just get down to where we were talking about the need for inspectors in the planning department and the overall deficiencies there. And earlier we had a discussion on the TAT, and all of this is about creating new revenue sources so that we're not making this place, this island, too expensive to survive. At the same time, one of the ways that the state legislature is considering raising funds is a casino-level major gambling hall in Waikiki. And if you followed the news the past 2 weeks with Speaker of the House Joe Souki making it clear that this was going to be a major move. So what this resolution is promoting to have HSAC look at considering high-stakes bingo. And it would be done on a pilot project with the counties having the option to do it, and the counties having the option to do it as a pilot project. I was involved in a major lawsuit in Maine, and it had to do with casinos and high-stakes bingo facilities, and over the 3 years I worked on it, I learned a lot about the differences between the impact on a community from casino-level gambling and high-stakes bingo. So I see this as sort of a fire break. I mean, if you're generally against gambling, you're going to take your chances. This is going to go, there's going to be more and more of an emphasis on we need more money. We have a lot of unpaid debts and a lot of needs. And the way I approached this was, here is an idea. I think it's really viable. It's being done as a pilot project. It doesn't say we have to do it. It gives the counties the option. And if you all, or if people in the state, have a better way to come up with what's needed, that's great. But not where we're, again, imposing more taxes on our people, and we're not even bringing in the funds, beginning to bring in the funds for the unfunded debts, such as all of the potential violations that we have in terms of wastewater and in terms of pollution, and so that's how I see this. I mean, I'm using it as the model. The modeling it, I foresee, like the Passamaquoddy tribe, the Penobscot tribe in Maine, and they use it in a multi-purpose room. They have big community events in the same place. They actually, one of the things that was talked about, I don't know whether it's done, is that one day a week there was nonprofits used it for bingo. I try to go to visit all of the senior meetings around my district, Waikoloa, Waimea, and North Kohala. They're all going to Las Vegas in October or sometime this year. They all love bingo, all of the churches. And the thing is, with bingo, it is a social, you get together. Again, if someone wants to come up with other ways that they feel have less, I think it's sort of, well, this means a slippery slide. I don't necessarily, I see it more as a fire break, and it's something doable, and we can each construct it. But I also just want to address when it's, well, those who are least able, we can't do this to our people. I have somewhat of a problem with this sort of level of paternalism, maternalism, that we're not adult enough to make decisions, that we have to take, that somehow the people here are less able to take care of themselves, and we have to make decisions for them. And so I just want to also bring that up. So this is not a pro-gambling. This is like trying to figure out a balancing in light of what I foresee happening coming up at the state legislature. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Ms. Poindexter?
Yeah, I'd just like to comment on your that when you said, not adult enough to make their own decisions, but I'm not looking at trying to be, like you said, the motherly type, but we're also looking at those who have gambling habits and have to go to Gambling Anonymous or whatever. It's like an addiction. So, we're dangling this carrot in front of those people. That's not fair. It's like me inviting a lot of people to my home to drink alcohol when I know a lot of them are struggling with alcoholism. So it's the same thing that we're doing here. So I didn't support it when it came before the council, and I'm once before, and I'm still not supporting this for many reasons that I had stated previously. Thanks.
Mr. Kern?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate Ms. Willian looking for creative ways to improve our economic situation here on the state and as well as in the county. I feel personally at this stage, though, whether it's high stakes bingo, it's still gambling. It's still in that arena, and I just don't think it's the right time for that right now. I think we need to continue to think outside of the box and move in that direction. But I can't be right in supporting this for our state here in our county right now. But again, I do appreciate that type of thinking, to think outside of the box. So I'll be Kanalua no on this.
Thank you. Ms. Ford?
Thank you. Within the last 4 years, there's been another bill to bring gambling into the county. It wasn't high-stakes bingo, but it was to bring it in, and it was for all the same reasons. We need more revenue, fix everything, blah, blah. When that bill came forward, I did an extensive amount of research, and I would recommend anybody who even has an inkling of doing something like this to go to gamblersanonymous.org website, and you're going to get an education that you never thought you would ever get. This is not about being maternal or paternalistic. Gambling is not a moral issue from my perspective, and if somebody thinks that I'm playing Miss Goody Two-Shoes, I gamble. I have gambled. And I've told the previous council that when this came up, I take my $20 into the casino. When I lose $20, I'm out of the casino. That's just me. I'm not much of a gambler. But there are people who get addicted. Most of us, 90+% of us, don't get addicted. Okay, but the people who do, they don't just take themselves down. It's like alcoholism or drug use. They take the whole family down with them. And one of the major studies, there's been a lot of major studies on this, is for every dollar of net revenue the county gets, or the state, they have to pay out $3 for social services to combat the problems, suicides, foreclosures. Take a look at the foreclosure rate in Nevada and suicide rate in Nevada. Now, I understand that's casino gambling, but I'm sure they have bingo games there, too. It's not what type of game you're playing. It's the fact that the person might have an addiction. And I'm not here trying to save the world. This is not a good role model for our children. I think Hawaii's got plenty of wonderful things to attract people. And by the way, this high-stakes bingo is not going to attract tourists. This is not a tourist, thing. This is going after money from the local people, local as in resident people here on the island. Gambling is a luck-based philosophy of life, and it says, I don't have to work hard, I don't have to save my money, I don't have to invest my money wisely. The sky somehow will open up one day and luck will fall on my head and I'm going to be a millionaire, or whatever. It's not a healthy philosophy to raise our children in. We need to be role models, and I don't think this one is it. The fact that this revenue is going to be coming from our residents, to me, is a problem. I come from California. We have the California lottery, and yes, I've played the California lottery. And I've also watched people, and all I can say is that watching them exit their vehicle, this is not a fair thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Watching them exit their vehicle and go in and buy their lottery tickets, and the quantity of lottery tickets they would buy at a particular time, and watching them go out, I have to wonder if their family is eating. I really have to wonder. We can't stop all addiction. Only the person addicted can stop the addiction. That's the only way it's going to stop. But we don't need to dangle the carrot, as Ms. Poindexter said. We have so much beauty on this island and in this state. People come here for completely different reasons. Would they still come here? Yes. But then, we get into organized crime. We already have organized crime in the state of Hawaii. We don't need to encourage more of it coming in. The other thing is once you open the door and allow any kind of gambling, it's a short move to allow other kinds of gambling, or to be forced to allow other gambling. And there's one other issue I need to raise. The Native Americans on reservations in many parts of the mainland have the right to have casinos that they own. The government doesn't own them. They own them. And any land that the tribe purchases becomes part of the reservation, even if it's in Hawaii. That's the way it was explained to me 3 or 4 years ago. So if we allow gambling, and that a tribe was able to come in and buy a piece of land and say, it's my reservation, now I can do gambling. They can put in a casino. We don't need this. We don't need this. We can't even house our own people adequately here. So I will not support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else before I call Ms. Willie?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, Mr. Onishi?
Thank you. I commend Councilwoman Willie to bring this up and for discussion. What was mentioned earlier was to think outside the box of how maybe we can get other revenue sources to this county, and I think that's one of the parts of it, is what she's doing is thinking it outside the box of how we can get. We just had earlier discussion about the TAT, how we shouldn't be getting one cap from the state, that we should be allowed to receive all the revenue that we supposed to be getting. Okay, but the state controls that. The state going to let us know, the legislature is going to let us know how much money we're going to be getting. Okay, so at least this is an opportunity where the legislature can go and they can think about it and see if this is a possibility to have some sort of gambling or a pilot project like what Ms. Willie mentioned, which I think she mentioned about the downtown one. Pilot projects are not good, but she wants this to be a pilot project, but that's okay. But, the thing is, I don't hear any other outside of the box suggestions of how we can generate more revenue. I mean, we just voted for raising our property taxes to increase services, and some, I think one council member didn't vote for it. She wanted to have it, status quo, but I don't see anyone else trying to see how we can generate more income. So I think we should at least pass this and let it go to the other counties to see if they're going to get the support. So to me, just give it a chance. Let's see what happens, because like someone mentioned on the other ones is that I think Ms. Willie did on her ag one was that all 4 counties got to approve this in order for this to get into the package. But at least we can have the discussion on the other counties to find out how they feel too. Because this is a state thing. It's not just going to be just Hawaii County. And then maybe it might not come here, and then it will go to maybe Maui or something like that. So to me, keep the options open. Let's vote for it, and then send it to the other counties. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Yoshimoto?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may ask Ms. Willie a few questions. Ms. Willie, so I'm looking at your proposal here, so I'm just trying to clarify, because I'm not familiar with high stakes bingo. So is your idea to limit it to $2,500 as far as the maximum amount that you can win? Is that what?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And again, I'm not much of a gambler, so.
I was basing it on what, I think it's the Passamaquoddy, the area, like what those tribes are using.
Oh, okay.
Trying to model it on something where it is working.
Right.
I think they may do a few 5,000, but most of the time it's, under like 500 or.
So is the idea that there would be control by the county or state, which would limit the number of times that you can play? In other words, if you only have so many games per week or whatever it is, and that's all you can play because that's all that's being allowed. Is that part of the...
Yeah, and each... it would give the county the control to put those restrictions.
Yes.
And make those restrictions and change them as needed.
Okay. Because I'm trying to think of it in a more analytical way. Because what Ms. Ford said about social ills, I think are well documented. So that's not an issue. But I think if there is a way in which we can control the number of times you can play or that you can wager, I suppose that would be a mitigating way to try and control things. So that's something that...
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, because I have never played high stakes bingo or...
Right, and then it's not... ordinarily with casino, it's sort of turned over to a large entity that does this all around the United States, and you basically lose control. I mean, I wasn't supporting this before I spent all this time just involved with it, and I do appreciate what Ms. Ford says in terms of gambling, and it wasn't until I really got immersed in this that I sort of researched and had presented to me the differential between sort of community-controlled level gaming and sort of casino gambling, which is very impersonal, and you don't have those restrictions. And so that was, yes, in terms of, it is mitigating. I'm not trying to say there aren't some issues. I'm just offering it as a challenge.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just as my comments, I'm on the fence on this one because while I agree that gambling can bring many unforeseen consequences on families and their ability to support themselves. So whether this is something that opens the door or that's a tough one. I'm not sure, but asking the question I think is a good thing because, the legislature, as you mentioned, at least talked about it, but I guess for funding reasons they couldn't fund the study, so I didn't think it went anywhere. So is that an accurate statement? Right,
but now they're moving forward with let's just move it on through, and they've got Joe Suki, who's head of the House, who's very supportive of full casino gambling, and if he's on the news just recently, so
supporting casino
I'm trying to, you do a fire break. That's sort of how I see this, or at least an alternative, and not going for the yes or...
Okay.
And other ideas. I'm open to other ideas. I haven't heard any other ideas out of the box.
Alrighty, thank you.
I think Mr. Kanuha.
Yeah, personally for me, I'm not in favor of this. I I do appreciate the ideas of how to bring certain types of revenues. I do appreciate that type of legislation and how we can bring other types of revenues into our county, but I don't think this is right for our community. I don't think our community really wants this. I haven't heard anybody or too many people says we need high stakes bingo or casinos or that kind of thing. So maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it never is the right time. But personally, for me right now, I don't think it's what our constituents want and the community doesn't want. So I won't be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ford had asked to speak next.
Thank you. I must take gentle exception to Mr. Onishi's statement that no one else is thinking outside of the box and how to bring in revenues. Sometimes it's not about bringing in revenues. Sometimes it's a better expenditure of revenues. And I won't go into great detail, but remember, for 18 months, I have been trying to get the Innovative Readiness Team program in this county to save us 40 to 60% on construction costs. And despite the administration's public and private promises to support the program and do this, they've done nothing, which tells me they're shining us on. They're certainly shining me on. They're shining the public on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Poindexter, did you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that instead of looking at how to increase revenue, kind of like piggybacking on what you're saying, is how to decrease, how to, look at ways to decrease the expenses for our people. So, and a good example is our energy costs. It's so high. So looking at ways to decrease, expenses that puts money back into the pockets of our people versus trying to increase it and putting it on their backs to take the money out of their pocket to fund this. So, when you say think out of the box on how to increase revenue, I'd like to also encourage us to keep working towards reducing expenses, high energy costs, and, we're going into solar or whatever it is, so that we can move our county forward and put money back into our people's pockets and not rely on our people to take money out of their pockets to help us survive. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional comments?
Madam Chair?
Members? Mr. Onishi?
Thank you. Hearing all what was said earlier, I don't think it's like we're going to be taking money out of the pockets. I mean, it's like what we're looking at is that, like I said, we need the other counties to support this, and we're going to need the legislature to pass a law for accepting gambling. And so what we're talking on right now is, to me, kind of like what they call that, like the carriage before the horse or something like that. Because to me, this is just a discussion of what possibilities of how the government can get revenue, not individuals to get revenue. It's how government can get alternatives, revenue sources to come into into their operating expenses, so that they don't have to put the burden like raising property taxes to the people, to the residents. And to me, with this high stakes, it maybe doesn't have to be at local areas, because like I said, it's all going to depend on what the state legislature wants to do. It could be done at all the different hotels, the resorts. I mean, that's a possibility, but we don't know everything. I mean, and like I'm saying, like what I'm hearing too is like you guys are thinking about the future. And we had discussion about downtown Hilo parking lot. That's what I was trying to let you folks know. The future, what's coming up, we should get prepared. And this is what I'm hearing right now about that. But, but it's two different subjects. But I'm just saying that just let the other counties have a discussion too, and then find out what's the scoop. And then from there we can go, because like I said, the bottom line, the state legislature is the one that's going to make the call. Either they're going to say yes or no. And that's it. And then everything's finished after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Onishi. Ms. Willie?
Okay. What I'm trying to do here is not let's institute it and it's done, is promote a discussion and have this as part of the discussion. So, I appreciate what everyone's saying. I do think Councilmember Kanua, this hasn't come forward to the point that I think that there's an informed public that can debate it. I like to I was trying to think a little bit ahead of the curve as I've been following the state discussions, what's going on, and at least have this in there as one possibility. We're not here deciding, shall we do it? We're here deciding, shall this be part of the discussion that is going forward, whether we like it or not. And that if you say, gambling, that at least we're participating in that. So that's how I see it. I'm not saying I have the answer or we should do it, but I'm trying to say I do believe that we should be part of this discussion, and this is a way to do it. And again, I want to stress that it wasn't until I really studied this issue that and I have been following what's going on with the tribes in Maine, that I felt that it is reasonable. We don't go, if we say we shouldn't do things that have addictions, we shouldn't be allowing alcohol. I mean, I just think, we do this. I also agree with that. I really appreciate what Ms. Ford's saying, like some of these programs where we could be doing things that together we can add it, talk the talk of the administration without, whether it's that program or the impact fee program. There are so many ways we could, but those amounts and keeping down our expenses, like Ms. Poindexter said, do not come close to the big things that we have, that we are keeping in the closet on a state level, the unfunded debts, and that we have on the county. This isn't a nickel a dime. So again, I encourage other ideas. I haven't heard anything that comes, okay, well, here I've got this other one that will really deal with that same level. And I want to just mention one more thing. I am very knowledgeable about tribal trust laws. And that's how I won the case in the Maine Supreme Court. So about trust territory, that was the issue that I won on. And a tribe could not just come over here and buy a piece of land and set up a casino. There are issues, but I just, in terms of that possibility, that could not happen. So I yield. I'm really promoting this as a discussion. I think moving it to the counties, then we can sort of watch and see what happens with regard to the state legislature is a good idea, but I appreciate what everyone has to say. I yield.
Ms. Willie, Madam Clerk, I think we can go ahead and call for the vote. Resolution 158.
Resolution 158. Ms. Ford?
No.
Mr. Lagan?
No.
Mr. Kanuha?
No.
Mr. Kern?
Kanalua, no.
Mr. Onishi?
Aye.
Ms. Poindexter?
No.
Ms. Willie?
Yes.
Mr. Ishimoto?
Cuddaloo, no.
Mr. Kern? Mr. Kern?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Ishimoto?
No.
Chair Eoff?
No.
Chair Eoff, you have 2 ayes.
Thank you. Resolution 158 fails. Okay, at this time, I'm going to relinquish the chair for just momentarily to Mr. Yoshimoto because